2, 1. And we are live. Live.
That was an interesting radio voice you had there.
I'm tired because that walk exhausted me. I'm so out of shape.
So we're both tired today. I'm tired just from not getting enough sleep. You're tired from going for a walk. I would have rather be tired from a walk. That sounds nice. Productive.
Whoops.
Oh, look at what that. No.
Nope. Sorry.
Anyway,
So welcome,
hi,
everyone.
everybody. Yeah, welcome to the Zocalo. This is your one-stop shop for everything related to Babylon 5. I'm Shar. That's Norm. And we're continuing our streak here of making top 5 lists. We did our top 5 most adored and loved episodes and why. We did top 5. What did we do last week? That was last week.
Top 5 most despised characters in Babylon 5.
Okay, that's right. And okay. Yeah, like I said, that was last week. I've already forgotten. And then today we are doing the most disliked episodes because with the good, we've got to have the bad, the yin and the yang.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like Shar says, this is the Zocalo. We talk about all things Babylon 5. And in the scope of Babylon 5, I know we're talking about the main 5 seasons here, seasons 1 through 5, from 1993, I guess, if you want to say The Gathering, and, to 1998.
That's right.
Not Crusade, not the movies or anything like that. So our lists are coming from specifically those 5 seasons. And the difference between this week and last week is that last week we really chose characters both from the online polls that we were able to summarize and our own lists that we were able to put together. There were characters that you were truly despised, and they were despicable for some reason or another. And they don't necessarily always say villainous characters or characters of a heroic or an evil nature. They were just despicable based on their choices, based on their decisions, based on how they affected the story.
Certainly.
Right.
Yeah, we had a really good discussion about that because Babylon 5 does that beautifully.
Yes, but now and today, I changed the wording in our title a little bit because I don't think that either you or I or maybe anyone in the audience despises episodes, but we can dislike them pretty severely.
Yes. Or we can find things that we do dislike about them without saying, oh yeah, that whole episode, that's a stinker.
Yeah. Or part of it is, or, an element is in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this list, once again, was not easy to come up with.
No.
Because in every episode that I have on my list, I don't know about you, Norm, but there's something about that episode that I do like. It's not like I'm picking it because the whole thing just does nothing for me whatsoever. I have to just basically prioritize, well, am I entertained? Am I getting a lot out of this? How meaningful is it to the story? There's like a whole mixture of things to consider. And then I have to kind of rank by, okay, this is really not doing much for me. But still pretty hard to do it just because Babylon 5 is so solid.
That's the luxury of having a series like ours, is that the quality of the overall 5-year arc is so strong. But, it's only written by, well, some would argue that Straczynski isn't human, but it's only written by human beings. It's only written by people that are fallible and they have off days, and sometimes their scripts don't work, and sometimes they're, they have to fill an entire 26 episode season. Not every one of them is going to be a winner. Not every one of them is going to be part of the strongest string of continuity, especially when continuity wasn't as well established, say, in season 1 as it was in comparison to seasons 3 and 4. Season 3 and 4 for me were really the hardest seasons to try and find fault with. But we might have. Yeah.
Well, I might have a little surprises to pull out as we're going through things like sources like IMDb, because like for our most loved episodes, we found the top rated. Well, I went in and I had to find the bottom rated too, just to even things out. Yeah. There was one other thing I wanted to add, which is, boy, guys, I'm so sorry. I'm so tired. I don't
How
remember
about we
what I was
Val
going to add.
2?
Shall we Val 2? Okay. I'm just drinking water.
Val 2.
Yeah, Val 2.
So am I.
No Brevari today. I'm already just, enough. Yeah. There was
hi, Terry
something I
Lynn
was
and hi,
going to
BC,
add
for
if
being there.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice to see you guys. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. So, should we just get right into it?
Oh, yeah, because sometimes these shows can go like a mile a minute, especially when we start really getting deep into the lists.
Okay.
So, all right.
So, a couple of questions as we go through this. I would love to know, if those of you who are in our audience, how predictable do you think these rankings are going to be? We had a couple of surprises when we did most loved episodes. Do you think disliked is going to be more predictable than that? Are there going to be surprises? Let us know in the comments. And as we go through, let us know, do your rankings yourself fall in line with what we're going to be talking about?
Were there any rankings posted in the Discord that we haven't seen yet? Or
let's see. I have a list from Earl that we can look through, because he made a list for us in the event that he couldn't join us, and it doesn't look like he is here. So, Earl, we will go through your list and discuss.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you, Earl, for doing that. How about if we start off with IMDb, though?
Yeah. So the last time I did this, I read like my list and then the rankings list and on the online list. So how about you do the kind of like the rankings list this time, because you dug them up.
Okay, that's fair. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right. So on IMDb, we're going to kick off number 5 with Secrets of the Soul from season 5.
Okay.
Not surprised. Not surprised at all. This, I think, would probably fit a lot of people's lists. One, a lot of people despise just the whole Byron arc. You know, some people would make a whole list of just Byron episodes and call it good. We're not going to be that lazy, though.
Right.
Also, I don't know if we hate the Byron story that much. It's not my favorite, but I don't despise every single one of those episodes so much that that's all I can think about.
Yeah, with Byron, it's an interesting thing because, he did make somewhere around the middle of the road average of one of the more despised characters from last week's show. I think it's just because maybe the storyline just didn't gel with people. Maybe they were expecting something else. Maybe they just didn't they just didn't connect with Robin Atkins Downs as the actor. That's very well possible. That has affected some of the choices in my list. So anything that has to do with Byron I always kind of take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, because sometimes he becomes kind of like the whipping post for Babylon 5. And it's really easy kind of levy that against him because there's so much momentum against Byron online.
Yeah, kind of the pile-up effect. One person brings it up and everybody, oh yeah, I hate Byron. You know how that goes. Right.
So we don't want to turn that into, sure, that's the online poll. And we don't want to obviously take that as gospel because we have obviously our thoughts on it too. And so do all of you out there.
I don't know. What I do like about things like IMDb, though, is these are coming from hundreds of people who have voted with a rating. So it's not just one person's opinion. It's not just our opinion.
Right.
It's a collective, the closest thing we have to a consensus on this sort of thing. But, and here's what I wanted to say earlier is a lot of times our most disliked or most liked things, they're subjective. Maybe we're connecting with them. Maybe we're not. So there we go. Okay. Number 4 is Grail from season 1.
Really?
Yeah. You know what? I considered this for my list. Jinxo is not my favorite.
I know. I understand. Jinxo was a weaker point of that episode.
There are some things that I do like about it. I love the Minbari attitude of, hey, he's on a noble quest. We're just going to cheer him on. It doesn't matter if he finds it or not. It's an honorable thing to devote one's life to this type of a quest. That changed my perspective on that a little bit. However, Jinxo, not my favorite dude, but you also get at the very end of the episode, no boom today, boom tomorrow.
That's always a boom tomorrow.
So, point in this episode's favor for that. Love that.
I always kind of took Jinxo as being like a jester, like a court jester who, he was just like wrong place, wrong time, obviously, because he was there for he worked on every Babylon station and they all ended up in peril of some kind. And but it's something I think that he just kind of, it's like it's a characteristic that he threw on himself. It's something, there's like survivor's guilt for some reason, and yeah. Now, could he have been acted better? Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. He was just a dude who really just didn't know what he was doing with his life.
Yeah.
He got lost. Yeah. Okay. Number 3 is The Gathering.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Did you expect this to hit any lists at all?
Pilot episodes are a really tricky thing because they represent the least most developed qualities of an entire series. And, from The Gathering to Sleeping in Light, there's obviously a seismic shift, say probably around season 2 to season 3, where production and acting and script tightness and, everything that makes Babylon 5 what it is has left The Gathering so far behind in its backview mirror that it's easy to see why people would dislike it, because it doesn't reflect anything that's really in the common understanding of Babylon 5, especially in the strongest seasons.
Yeah. Well, and I'd also point out what Joe said in his autobiography about The Gathering, where its finished product just really doesn't hit all the marks that it needs to. The pacing is a little difficult. There were issues with the lighting and the directing. It didn't completely gel. The concept is there, but as a well-produced work of art that's worth watching, well, I can see why it's on a list.
Yeah. I gotta read some of these comments. Oh my God.
Let's get to some comments. My goodness, the comment section's hopping, you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, DC says, easy for Byron to be a whipping post considering how much he was into self-flagellation. Yeah. Lead by example. There you go.
Yes. Yeah. And BC has to mention the hot telepath sex. Yes. For some people, that was a turn on. For others, it was a turn off.
Yeah, it really depends on if you're a telepath or not. Right?
And if you're into seeing a little bit of naked action.
There was some side questing going on there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. BC has a great point about David Warner in Grail. Yes, he got to play a nice guy for once, and that was refreshing. I do agree with you on that point.
Yeah. He was kind of like almost kind of like St. John Talbot, from Star Trek V. Yeah, the human ambassador, on Nimbus 3. He was kind of in that same vein, very much had the same haircut.
Yes.
I like what Terry Bigrig said, like, I'll take Byron episodes over TKO anytime.
I have a feeling TKO is going to get some hate today.
Oh my God. TKO is just getting so beaten on, like Walker Smith did.
Yeah. He's just like Walker Smith. Indeed. Watch your back. Watch your back.
That's so funny. All righty.
Yes.
So where were we?
We are on to number 2. And this one, in my opinion, is no surprise. Infection.
What?
Yeah, really early season 1. I can see why this makes the upper part of a list. It's really an inconsequential episode. It tries to go for kind of the scary monster of the week type of thing, and it doesn't do a whole lot for me either. I'm agreeing with this one.
I disagree with that. Not for Most Despised.
Please defend it.
Because even if it's a monster of the week episode, it's not a bad episode. It doesn't really go anywhere to help the narrative story for the rest of the season, but so don't other episodes that don't make this list. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. And I also like the fact that you're getting a little bit more Stephen Franklin history. David McCallum turns in a great performance. You get Talon coming in for the very first time.
That's true.
Oh, Marshall Teague. So I just think that from a top 5, especially number 2, right? That's pretty high up on the list for sucking so hard. I don't think it sucked that hard.
We'll have to agree to disagree. I see the merit of ranking this one kind of high, which might be giving away some things on my list, and that is okay. There are some good things for maybe Stephen Franklin's character development. I do agree with you on that. Also, I believe this is the first instance where we see the use of stims, which will become a very important thing later on.
Also, I think the first time that we're introduced to IPX. Interplanetary expeditions.
So, okay, yes, they're introducing some important things, which just reinforces the point that no one episode is just so god-awful that you have to ignore it and pretend it didn't happen. You can't do it.
Right. That's just the way this show is written. There are too many, like some of the roots are deep, and some of them, they just kind of like weave their way into like a story every once in a while. But those are the things that like pay off like later, like stints.
It's true. They're planting those roots here.
Yeah.
So it does matter. Okay. And number 1 now, rated the worst on IMDb, is TKO. People don't like Rocky in space, apparently.
But it's not about Rocky in space.
Well, you know what it is? It's like this weird half and half story. I mean, we've got a nice redemption with Walker Smith and taking on the Mutai and fighting for his honor. And then you have the B plot with Ivanova seeking Shiva with Uncle Yosel.
That's great.
And I love that story. That is a beautiful thing that needed to happen, but put in conjunction with the Mutai is such an imbalance that it's like being dragged in 2 different directions as they switch from plot point to plot point, that I do not like how jarring that is.
Okay, but that's different than saying Walker Smith is bad. It's just saying
I'm not saying Walker Smith is bad.
So that's the thing. It's like it's 2 separate stories that don't intersect the way that most that stories do in Babylon 5.
Yeah, it's true. They kind of ignore one another, which is very unusual for Babylon 5, which might inform why it's why it's so jarring.
Right, because you're watching one story with Walker Smith, and it all of a sudden cuts to like Susan's story, and they don't really converge. Not to say they have to converge all the time, but most of the time there's like a thread or 2 that kind of like brings both stories together.
Sure, or at least a running theme, and I don't know if that's the case here, because you're dealing with a very heavy issue of grieving the death of a loved one, or at least somebody you have very mixed feelings about, very complicated, to we're gonna box it out.
But what I like
Walker
about
Smith as a character, he's awesome.
Yeah,
I wish he would have come back.
Yeah, I always wanted him to be the friend that Garibaldi lost on when he went to the Drazi homeworld
in season 5. Yes,
yeah.
I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah,
if they would have just maybe separated these stories, put them in other parts of the season or something like that, I think they both would have fared better.
Yeah, I think
Instead, they're just kind of lumped together here, and it doesn't completely work for me.
Well, the technical knockout is complete because it did hit the number 1 on this list. So.
It did. So just for the record, the lowest rating for Babylon 5 on IMDb is 5.8 for TKO. That's as low as they go.
Wow. I think that TKO is kind of like, say, like the threshold of the Babylon 5 universe.
You think there's like a subgroup of people who really love it, and then everybody else is just kind of nah?
Not so much love it, but definitely not the whipping it gets.
Okay.
Doesn't deserve the whipping it gets. So
all right, that's fair.
And I'm there too.
Right. Yeah, you like martial arts, and so you're probably connecting with that whole aspect of the story a heck of a lot more than I am.
Well, it's not even so much martial arts in TKO. It's that Walker Smith, when he goes into this alien fighting ring, they treat him with the kind of bigotry that it's consistent with, say, if an alien went to Earth. So he has to fight his way. It's kind of like, I always like underdog stories. So it's kind of like he's trying to prove a point because he wants to fight his way and be the best, even in these alien circles. And he has to fight the racism or the bigotry involved in order to do that. So
yeah, true.
He's fighting a completely uphill battle out of his comfort zone and certainly out of the standard rules of being a boxer. He has to fight these aliens. These people are using different killing techniques. One's Minbari, so they know that he's really good at killing humans. I think one of them's Minbari. But anyway, it's just I agree with the fact that they are 2 completely separate stories that just don't work together. They're not peanut butter and chocolate. They
most certainly are not. They're not even peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, they're certainly oil and water for sure.
They are. Yeah. But you know what? You put forth a good defense of TKO, like as far as what the story means, and having like Walker Smith, he earns respect.
Right.
In a place where nobody really believed in him, except maybe Garibaldi and himself. So, hey, that's cool.
Yeah. I just thought that was worth noting, for an episode that just gets whipped on so hard.
Oh, hey, you know what? BC has another redeeming thing for TKO, and that is the Zima sign.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Zima. Yeah,
Right?
it's one of those things you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it.
Zima is
I
so
love it.
90s, man. It's so
It
90s.
is. I've never
Yeah.
had Zima. I have no idea if it's any good or not, but the sign,
Yeah, well,
hot.
it's a spritzer. Like it's kind of like a wine cooler.
Oh, okay.
Minus the cooler, minus the wine.
Hmm.
Right? It was a very non-alcoholic drink.
Interesting.
Also known as terrible. So
Okay, so no love for Zima from Norm.
no. Guess
All right,
my
I'm going to
TKO.
take your word for it. I think you can find Zima sparingly across the U.S., but
I
I'm
wouldn't drink
not
it.
about to start looking for it.
Nah, I wouldn't drink it. It's like drinking a 50-year-old beer. Just don't do it.
Oh, that's okay. No.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else is in the comments here? Terry skips infection. Yeah, if I'm in a hurry, if I'm just ready to get to some of the better stuff, I'd probably skip it too, especially with it being so early in the series.
Right.
If the tech in infection was relevant to later stories, like the healing device, I'd give infection a higher mark. Yes, that brings up a good point, BC. If there was a little more continuity where the events of what happened there meant a little more later on, maybe that would spice it up a little. But I don't think we get that benefit.
It was kind of like he was like a walking doomsday machine, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Infection. Disease.
Exterminate.
Yeah.
If I may make a Doctor Who reference.
I'm a huge fan of like rubber monsters, rubber suits, all that kind of stuff. So
there's a lot here.
Right. So that speaks to my wheelhouse like big time.
Okay. So that's IMDb. Let's move on now to, well, actually, let's not move on from IMDb. Let's talk about seasons 2 through 4. Because if you notice, our top 5 or our bottom 5, however you want to talk about it, these are all episodes that come from seasons 1 and 5. Well, what about everything in the middle? What I did is I went through the seasons 2 through 4 to find the least ranked episode of those seasons. So if you've got any guesses, throw them out right now for all the seasons. I'll give you just a quick minute.
Interesting.
Yes, chances are you might be able to guess one of these seasons. We have a 3-way tie for season 2, though. So, Norm, you want to throw out any guesses
for season 2? If I throw out one of my season 2 guesses, I might spoil my list.
Oh, okay. Well, we can't do that yet, can we?
Yeah, nah.
All right. How about if I start spouting them off?
Okay.
So, least ranked in season 2, the 3-way tie with a rating of 7.3 goes to A Distant Star, Spider in the Web, and Knives. And I know you love Knives.
Knives? How can you? Oh my God! What's wrong with these people? Just for the the opera scene alone and the sword fighting at the end and the nobility. That's like the last act of nobility and kindness that like Londo shows for like until season never. Right?
I knew that would get a rise out of you. Thank
you.
Oh my God. Terry Lynn correctly guessed Distant Star. No Gropos is fairly highly regarded from what I saw.
Yeah, that's because our favorite Dodger, well, my favorite
Dodger probably sells it for everybody. Yeah.
Maria Marshall saves that episode, I think. Oh, and so does Paul Winfield. Paul Winfield is great.
Yes, he is. Love Paul Winfield.
Yeah. Okay.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so season 3, you probably can guess this one with a rating of 6.6. It's Grade 17 is Missing. Sahadum. After doing the most loved, that should inform you. No.
It's a weird bunch out there.
Yeah, well, it's true. Grade 17 is Missing. Probably the one mid-series episode that everybody likes to hate on. And I'll admit, I considered it for my list too, but I don't know. The whole Garibaldi thing, his storyline, yeah, I agree, is just kind of, it doesn't really go anywhere or do anything that great. But there's the whole Delenn and Naroon thing.
Exactly.
She becomes Until Za.
Yeah, and Naroon and Marcus go off with
yes.
Right?
Yes, and that's a big turning point with, I guess, kind of like Minbari society, with Naroon having to accept that and seeing just how devoted people like Marcus are, the Rangers are, to their Until Za, who is Delenn, and he has to, even though he kind of spits it out, Until Za,
right?
He at least respects it.
That's see where or say TKO doesn't work because the two separate stories were just really two separate stories.
Again, disjointed.
Yeah. But this one though, because the her ceremony as Entel Za and Marcus is almost near sacrifice to show Naroon that the Rangers would follow her and give up their lives for her. We live for the one, we die for the one. That's so right. That's so imbalances how important this episode is on the B plot.
Yeah, but it makes it very easy to overlook because it is in this overall story. So, okay, fine. We know better.
Monsters except me.
Now, season 4. This is an interesting choice. I had no idea what was going to show up for season 4. With a rating of 7.4, the episode is Conflicts of Interest.
Okay. I don't remember that.
This is the one where it's Marcus and Franklin. They're on their way to Mars.
Is that with Captain Jack?
Captain Jack.
Yeah.
And he's got the little thing, implanted in him. And there's that whole thing. And guess that's just, if you have to pick one, I can see why this one would be it.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, why would it be important to show a keeper and, I don't know, number 1 of the Mars resistance? I mean, of course we should overlook those details.
At least you're not bitter.
I'm trying to understand. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. But anyway.
All right. So saying if you had to pick an episode, it would be that one out of season 4.
Well, I don't know. Deconstruction of Falling Stars might be my choice. But here's the thing is I like it, but it really does not necessarily have to belong. And therefore I could possibly consider it for a list just because
because it's a list.
Because it's a list and it's subjective and I could change my mind tomorrow and it doesn't even matter. It's all made up and it doesn't matter.
I think Conflict of Interest is a better decision than Deconstruction of Falling Stars, though.
Okay. I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I'm saying I could possibly consider that just because it is sort of like this shoved in addendum. Yeah. I can make a case for it. All right. Now let's move on from IMDb. Ranker.com does not do a worst of list. We're going to have to move on from them, even though we did talk about them with our top. Episode Ninja, though, whom we referenced in our top episode, also has bottom. Excuse me one moment. We'll do a link. Okay. Here we go with number 5. We have a new season 5 entry, and it is In the Kingdom of the Blind. Again, Byron.
Right.
Yeah. So if you hate on Byron,
like what are they going to do in season 5? Like Paragon of Animals? I mean, just kind of throw a dart at a Byron episode, and there's your,
There you go.
Yeah.
Number 4. Now, this one shocked me. Midnight on the Firing Line.
We're never going to use episode Ninja ever again. Like that's ridiculous.
That just really why?
Well, where does their aggregate come from, though? Like
it's people putting in votes, sort of like IMDb.
That's
so their rankings. Yeah, let's see. Their top, their worst episode rank is 7.2, and then In the Kingdom of the Blind gets 7.26. So overall, like a 7-something rating is not a bad rating. Nevertheless, these are the bottom of their barrel. But Midnight on the Firing Line is part of. It was an episode that started hooking me on the show.
I can understand, like I said, when you go that far back in Babylon 5's history, it's not the pilot episode, it's the season 1, number 1 episode. And it does have Londo isn't quite fully formed yet. Peter doesn't even really have the accent quite down yet. Jakar is a villain and he's just a mustache twirling villain. So there's a lot of things there that aren't really settled. It's just a kind of revenge plot thing. But the big thing, the saving throw for that episode is Londo's premonition of how he's going to die. And you actually get to see some of that flash forward in there. But as a standalone episode, I can see why it would make the list. I don't agree with it, but I can understand why. I can see that how this would make the list, say more than Infection.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Infection is weaker than Midnight on the Firing Line, just because you are introducing the Londo and Jakar conflict. You are introducing Susan Ivanova. She has her dialogue with Talia. I'm in the middle of
Oh,
15 things, all of them annoying. You're really getting a feel for this place. Yes, the characters are not fully formed. It's episode 1 of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get started. But I feel like if you skip the gathering and you just started with this, you'd be fine.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Totally. So really, that puts this episode up in my ranking. But hey, episode ninja, you do you.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 3 is Secrets of the Soul.
Okay, so we have our first double hit.
First repeat. Yep.
Okay.
But then here we go with more. Number 2 is TKO. And I know you're going to choke every time. You're going to hate it.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 1 is Grail.
Okay.
A lot of hate for Grail so far. More than I anticipated.
Yeah. Maybe it's just an episode that just didn't go anywhere for people.
Maybe not. Or maybe people just aren't really interested in the whole mythology idea, tapping into that. Like I know, what is the episode with King Arthur? Forgetting the title right now. A Late Delivery from Avalon?
From Avalon, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Some people just aren't into that, and that's one of their most disliked episodes. And if you're not into that, you're not into that.
No, I get it. Yeah. I mean, there's like there are episodes that are disliked because they're just terrible episodes, and there are episodes that are disliked because people just don't even really remember them anymore. Like,
sure,
sometimes these things fall by the wayside. We're like, is there a reason why we don't watch that episode anymore? It was boring.
It just didn't do much for you. And in fact, that's how I had to kind of define my list, was just how much do I get out of it?
Yeah.
And
true.
I had to make some difficult choices I don't even necessarily agree with, but I had to do something.
True. Yeah. I know.
All right. So we did Screen Rant for our top. So we'll do that for the bottom. You're going to really hate this, sir. Number 5 is Believers.
Delete this, people. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. These people don't
love to know why that is on this list. Like, really?
Because they didn't watch it.
Maybe not.
Right? They didn't watch it to the end.
I don't know. Or did they misremember the episode name was something else? But Believers? Are you kidding? I disagree. I also disagree with number 4. Maybe whoever wrote this was on some bad drugs. Soulmates.
What?
Yeah, I know. I highly disagree with this one. And I guess maybe if you're not looking for a whole lot of comedy in an episode, and you think that the comedy wasn't well done in this type of an episode, maybe you'd put it up here. You could also make that case for Day of the Dead, where if you're just not independent teller, you're not going to like that episode. But I love Delen's Bad Hair Day. Yeah. And I really like that episode. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Screen Rant, up yours.
Well, I mean, sometimes, they, when it comes to like a lot of the top episodes, they're all like, they're of a quality. They're like, they're like the top tier, the cream rises to the top. And sometimes they take these episodes, these worst episode choices, and the way that I see them, at least ranking them, they're not. I believe that they're not seeing them in the context of the overall narrative. Now, I know that may be different for, say, Believers, because Believers doesn't really affect the overall content of it, but it is the episode establishes Franklin, as a kind of like a renegade, physician.
Well, it really taps into his belief system and his psychology, who he is. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a very talky episode,
Sure.
And a lot of talky episodes usually get, kind of the whipping post, reaction from a lot of fans, because fans of, at least of the 90s and maybe today, they like, episodes with a lot of fleet battles and ships and profits that make your enemies disappear for no reason. They like those kind of episodes.
Okay,
that's what I did that. You heard me, BC. I did that.
Yeah. Well, and if that's what you're looking for, Believers is not an episode that falls under that purview. No. So
it's a 60-minute dissertation of religious philosophy. Right?
Right. Yeah, we're going deep on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3 is The Long Dark.
Okay.
So that one's getting some love, which I don't know. I don't hate that episode. It's kind of middle of the road for me. How about you?
Yeah, it's middle of the road. I don't hate it, but I can understand like why, if they have to make a list, then they would choose this one, I guess.
Sure. All right. And number 2, Secrets of the Soul. Been there, done that. Yeah. And number 1, TKO.
Wow, do some homework, Screen Rant. Be original. My God.
Yeah, Screen Rant, I don't necessarily like them. They do sometimes miss the mark, and it's all just a matter of who's writing these articles. So
Again,
whatever.
these are all subjective lists, and that's okay if
They
they're wrong.
are. They are. So, okay, BC has a great point about Believers. It did break a rule. The JMS said there would be no cute kids or robots on the show. And guess what? This episode has a kid in it. However, I mean, it's not like Sean is not a cute kid, but they're not using him as a cute kid prop. And it's not a cute situation.
Right.
So I think he can get away with that one. Don't you think?
Well, it's not the, that scene in Airplane, it's like, well, hey, Timmy, have you seen movies with gladiators? Is like, oh, hey, Timmy, here's a learning moment. No, it's not about that. Sean actually is the driving force of Believers. It's the reason why it's the reason why everyone is choosing to do what they're doing without actually asking him. The only person that did in that episode was Sinclair. Like, Sean, what do you want, to happen? What do you want for your life? But again, that's neither here nor there in this episode, in our discussion.
Now, do you remember back to our See It or Skip It for season 5? Because Terry Lynn is saying that really you could take out a lot of season 5, condense it, and make it a better season overall. I don't think we agreed with that just because there was other essential stuff thrown into the Byron episode arc that needed to stay. Was that right?
It's hard. I don't remember that specific point, but I do think that I just think that like Lockley, like Byron just kind of popped out of nowhere and started throwing kind of like his muscle around. Obviously, with all the telepaths at his disposal, he could do so. So it wasn't really established, somewhere at least at the end of season 4 that maybe somewhere along the line, the Rangers are saying like there's a massive telepaths that are kind of like floating around there in the flotsam or the, in the aftermath of this war, and we don't know where they're going or what they want, but they may be a danger. So there was no real, you don't have to telegraph something like this, but it's something that just all of a sudden, Hotsy Totsy Byron with his golden flowing locks and British accent is just kind of like being all, he's being a little bit on the elitist side because, he is a telepath, a very strong one, an ex-psychop, an ex, student of Bester's.
Yep.
So I think that there's merit for the Byron story, but I just don't think that that people were gradually introduced to somebody who's so intense.
Yeah. Also, I do think the fact that it was just kind of thrown in to fill up season 5 because of the way season 4 had to be so condensed. JMS needed to add other things to keep season 5 afloat. He didn't have the time to put as much love and care into that arc, I don't think, as he probably did with the whole rest of the show.
I'm sure Pat Tallman would pretty much disagree with everybody because it gave her a lot of episodes to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. If I'm Pat Tallman, I'm saying I love all of this. And I mean, it did do a lot for her character. I mean, it really turned her into what she became toward the end of the series. And it was very good stuff from her. Yeah, and we got great performances from her. I
think if we want to take the Byron storyline in a different direction, it's not so much what he did; it's what he did. It's what he did for Lita's character, and he was kind of like an aside or a tangent to Lita's character development and storyline, not his own.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I'm so glad it ultimately went to Lita because it was originally supposed to be Ivanova, and
yeah.
Nah. I mean, she already had enough heartache with Marcus. I'm glad things turned out the way they did.
Yeah, I don't know, like that wouldn't have worked, especially with what happened with Marcus, so fresh.
Just well, then Byron would have been the rebound guy.
No, we don't want that.
Okay. Well, we do have one more ranking. It's from a site called Series with Sophie. This is just somebody's opinion, though. I'll put the link into the chat and you can all check it out, but I don't know if we need to necessarily go through it because a lot of these are duplicates that we've already talked about. So I kind of don't see the point at this point. And I think we ought to get into our lists.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you like me to go first or would you like to go first?
That's funny. I love good puns. So DC says Byron was an elitist. Well done, sir.
Well done.
Well done. I dig that. Yeah, please go ahead. Sure.
You want me to go? Okay.
Yep.
I'll do it. I don't know if this will shock you or not. Number 5, I start off with The Gathering. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry. I'm really not the biggest fan of the pilot. Maybe I would have changed my mind if I had been around when it first aired. Like if that's all I had of Babylon 5 and it interested me, maybe I would have a completely different view of it. But coming in when I did in 1998, when it had just got onto TNT and starting off with Midnight on the Firing Line, I really there's good stuff in The Gathering, but you can tell it's just not quite there yet. It's a kind of jagged version of Babylon 5. It has not come into its own. It's very much a pilot. Yeah. And as far as pilots go, it's not terrible. It's just in the grand scheme of things, if I have to rank, it falls short. It's just incomplete.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like I said, it's so, it's very, everything in there is very half-baked. They're not fully formed characters. They're not really fully formed plot lines. They're not really fully formed developments. So it's kind of just there, right? I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. I have to agree with BC about Byron. You think he was British by accident? Absolutely not. And they liked Robin Atkins Downs.
Yeah.
Since he played them in Bari, he put in a good performance. They said, you like this guy, they'll bring people back. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's funny. And I think it's no coincidence either that he had the long 90s Fabio hair.
And the crystal. He's so 90s. He's so 90s.
So 90s.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your number 5, sir?
My number 5 is Legacies from season 1.
Okay, Legacies. Yeah. This was what I considered. Why did you choose it?
So Legacies is one of those great episodes where you have a very separate A storyline and a very separate B storyline. And the A storyline with the disappearance of Branmer and the way that Naroon comes on and he tries to antagonize Sinclair and stir up all those old feelings. I thought that was fabulous. And the A and B storyline converge because Lisa Belden is the one who figures out what happened to Branmer's body. So sure. They're not separate entities. My biggest thing with this episode is the actor who plays Lisa Belden. Her name's Grace Una. And literally one of the most regrettable performances of a guest star in Babylon 5. Every single time she's on screen, she just takes me out. And when it's
cringy.
Yeah, it's just,
yeah.
I don't know, if she ever went to act on after that. I don't know if she was just, too new, but you're going to get inexpensive talent. And sometimes that shows how inexpensive that talent really is. And that was her.
Yeah. Yeah. And they didn't even get what they paid for with her. I agree. Not a great performance. Takes me out of it. And had it been a different actress, we probably wouldn't be talking about it right now. But this guest star, not great.
Not great. And like I said, it takes what could have been a really interesting story, because it is about this telepath who is being fought over by two people who have very specific views on, what should happen to somebody with these gifts. Great story there.
Yeah.
But the talent in there was just not, didn't hold up.
No, it was a great examination. It had good potential because you're learning kind of each culture's stance on how they regard telepaths. Mm-hmm. She's auditioning them in Bari, the Narn, right. Centauri, maybe Psychor, maybe not.
Yeah.
Looking into all of her options, and
you needed a stronger actor for that role.
Unfortunately. And then it would have been a really, really solid episode overall, I would think.
Yeah. And that's kind of like Jinxo. Like Jinxo just wasn't a strong enough actor
Probably
to pull
not.
off that role.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah.
We got what we got.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, number 4. All Alone in the Night. I'm probably going to get some crap for this one, but it is one of those episodes that I just don't dig that much. And I think the reason why is the Sheridan abduction story.
Yeah.
I don't get much out of that. Not a whole lot really comes out of it. It's just a little adventure where he has to escape. He does meet up with Talon. Mm-hmm. That's there. But really, all in all, I just don't get much for it. Therefore, it makes the list. And it's a season 2 episode. And I kind of like the idea of adding a little bit of variety.
Yeah, the whole thing with the Stribe was interesting, but it did show like how much Delenn cared enough to be able to pull some resources together and go after him.
That's true.
So that started building their relationship there. But it was all like, for all intents and purposes, it is a very kind of bottle episode where not a whole lot happens in the grand consequence of, of the story of the 5 years. But you're right. We do get, unbeknownst to us at the time, we do get Talon from that.
Yeah, that's
which
about
is cool.
One of the very few redeeming things from the episode. The rest seems quite inconsequential. Also, the special effects in that one, not great. Like when whatever it is grabs Sheridan through the mouth, that is not a good effect.
But it was an interesting attempt at something,
Something.
It just didn't really quite land.
Yeah. So it's going to make my top 5. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is a distant star. That's why I didn't want to mention it before. Yeah. And here is the thing. I just don't like Jack Maynard at all.
You don't like Captain Maynard, huh?
I think that guy is a goofball. And the whole Stinky and Swamp Rat thing, I mean, it just seems so childish. It seems like so immature. Even those names, like they just seem dumb, right? And
you know what it is? It's kind of like college frat bros.
Yeah, but even those guys had like better nicknames. And Swamp Rat, for two guys that actually are roaming the stars and are explorers, they call them Swamp and Stink.
You know, if there had been maybe a little more explanation as to how they got these horrendous names, maybe it would have more meaning and we'd be able to laugh along with it a little bit more. I don't necessarily care, but I get what you're saying. I
don't like, I mean, I have no problem with Russ Tamblyn, as an actor, but I just don't like the whole Jack Maynard thing, because all he was really doing was saying like, hey man, my command is so freaking awesome. You should be an explorer with me. Oh, look, we got lost.
Well, you know what that did though, that I did appreciate, was Sheridan was already kind of wondering, should he have taken the assignment on Babylon 5 as it was? And then he meets up with an old friend who is out exploring the stars and is saying, hey buddy, what are you doing? You should be out here doing this. I thought that's what your career trajectory was going to be too. And instead you're sitting at a desk and looking at paperwork all day. Is that what you really want?
But it's too early for that though.
With Sheridan already questioning it though, yes, it is. It is relevant, because then eventually Sheridan does settle in and realizes he has a really important role to play, but it is nice to see him questioning it.
But if we're looking at Babylon 5 and say like a real-time situation, Sheridan's been there for like a couple months and now he's like doing, oh, woe is me. I mean, come on. Right? It's like you just barely unpacked out of boxes. And now all of a sudden, Captain Jack so-and-so saying you should be out there like hopping galaxies, Swamp Rat or Stinky or whatever your stupid name is, and like you haven't even unpacked your clothes and now you're bored. No, it doesn't work for me.
Honestly, I think it was the workload more than anything for Sheridan. I mean, running a station was a very different task for him, and getting acclimated to that, just different change of pace.
But it does have Delen's Star Stuff quote in it, which gives it.
That's true. So again, always a redeeming thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we're on number 3 now. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Well, no surprise. TKO is going to make my list. For reasons already explained. I don't think we have to rehash it.
I get it.
I know. I'm sorry.
Something to be sorry about.
What's your number 3? Have you got something better?
My number 3 is Exogenesis.
Oh, you know what? I really narrowly put this on my list. Mm-hmm. I like it's an honorable mention for sure.
It's a very obvious filler episode. And to be honest, like I said, there's more of kind of like a TNG Star Trek type feel to this episode than where I think they should be taking the narrative at this stage in the game in season 3. But at the same time, though, we do get some great, performances from Corwin, and the whole Flowers and Ivanova thing with Marcus at the end was awesome. So that's my saving throw for this episode.
The very end, I think, is what made me reconsider, just because I love that. The marching drum roll, and then she slams the flowers down. Come on, that's so great.
Gives her the flags. It's for you. Thank you.
Keep them. Yeah, thank you. I will.
I will.
And then he just goes on eating his soup. I love it so much.
Yeah. So,
but I do agree. It is kind of one of those very rare one-off, inconsequential, nothing really, really, really of note happens in the middle of the series. Yeah. Odd.
just there. I think it's in a weird spot. That's all.
It's just there. Also, I don't know if anybody else is a big fan of when sci-fi tries to go into the horror angle just a little bit. I feel like this episode is trying to do that, and I don't completely dig on that. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
I don't connect with it.
Yeah.
BC. Yeah. To that point. There you go. He sees it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a mistimed episode for how strong the episodes were before
Honestly,
and after it. So
yeah, if it had maybe happened, let's say in season 1, I wonder if we would regard it differently or not.
No.
I don't know. Something to consider for a future episode, maybe.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We got plans, guys. Although next week is Easter weekend, we probably will not be doing a show. Heads up.
No, we're gonna be eating Mexican food, you and me.
Yeah. Yeah, we got plans, guys. We're gonna do a socially distanced meetup before Norm leaves for Florida. We're gonna get together. Yeah. Very excited. Okay. So number 3. Did you do your number 3? You did, didn't you?
Yeah, that was Exogenesis.
Okay, that's right. Okay. Mm-hmm. So to number 2, again, I'm sorry, this is sort of predictable and disappointing at this point. Secrets of the Soul. The reason why for me is this is where things really turn for Byron. This is where he becomes the more entitled, my people deserve the homeworld rather than we are seeking to find it. We're looking for it. It's like, no, you will give us. Mm-hmm. And suddenly it all goes straight to hell from there. Once he learns how the Vorlons manipulated telepaths, everything changes, and not for the better.
Well, I mean, let's kind of like take a look, like take a step back. And I think I see this, from not so much that it's a great episode standpoint, but it's reasonable for him to do what he did, because he essentially did what kind of John Rambo did in First Blood. Like Byron and all the telepaths were created to be weapons, right? But nobody wants to take responsibility for them after they were used. They were just discarded as weapons, or like you would, throw away a bunch of like useless ammunition or broken ships. But these aren't broken ships or useless ammunition. They're people. They're beings.
True.
They're sentient with an incredible power. Why would you want to let that run rampant? Don't you think that Sheridan or the League of Non-Aligned Worlds or the Interstellar Alliance, they would all want to say, like, you know what? Maybe we should keep a tab on them. Maybe.
That's a very good point, and I agree. Give them some work, give them jobs, give them a home. For whatever reason, I do feel like John Sheridan dropped the ball with Byron and the telepaths, because there could have been a workable solution here, and he just wasn't going for it, didn't see it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, also, they could have, I don't know, created an anti-Psi Corps. They could create an organization that worked with the Interstellar Alliance.
Sure. But at the same time, I do not like Byron demanding that Sheridan help him, because it goes from we just want to live our lives and be left alone to having a list of demands and creating hostage situations and all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah, but that wasn't Byron's fault. Those are his people that went rogue. We know that. That
is true, yes. But ultimately, he takes responsibility as the leader. And that, again, goes into my big problem with Byron, is that he doesn't have a good plan in place. If you're going to be a leader, you got to be thinking about some of this stuff, man. But he didn't. So anyway,
I think it's, I'm gonna he's not a leader. He's just reacting. He's the best. He's the best solution for whatever they needed at the time. Unfortunately, Char, are you there?
I'm here. Do you hear me?
Sunspots for a second. Yeah, you're fine.
Oh dear, you froze too. So something's going wonky with Be Live, maybe. Sorry, guys.
Byron's upset.
Byron did it.
So the way I see Byron in this situation is that he's not a natural born leader. He's not even a good officer of any kind. He's just the best possible solution for what they needed. Sometimes leaders can rise to the occasion. Sometimes they can't. He wasn't prepared for just the mass amount of insanity that it would take to get these people organized. And Sheridan did absolutely nothing to help.
He really didn't. So there's missteps by, in many ways along the way, and it becomes the David Koresh situation. and it's the worst possible outcome for everybody.
Yeah. But that's the tragedy of what happened, is that the telepaths, much like, say, you know, like what John Rambo was fighting for in First Blood, they just got used and they got discarded and nobody cared.
Yeah.
And that's why I like that storyline, because somebody tried to do something, and just because he didn't know how to handle it, it just kind of like it just compounded the problem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that one of my I'm going to go on a rant. One of my most like probably my most disliked scenes in Babylon 5 is when Sheridan puts the PPG up to Lita's head.
Oh yeah.
Right, and I'm just like,
yeah.
Right there, it's like, I wanted you to be a better leader than this. And all of a sudden, it's like, this is the way that you're going to handle somebody who basically literally saved you from the Shadow War.
Yes.
You know, held a shadow crab ship in her mind. Right?
Yeah. It was not his finest moment in the least. I have problems with him in that scene too.
Yeah.
He could have and should have done anything but that.
I just think that, it just shows like how much like his agenda is the agenda of, when we got to move forward with obviously what I have planned, but the resources that have provided me the success along the way, well, we'll take care of them when we can. Garibaldi, Lita, right?
Yeah.
You know, the people under his command. So yeah, I just have a huge problem with that scene. But that's also just how he handles the telepaths. It's just like, okay, you know,
he doesn't do a good job.
We'll deal with it.
Synth Addict, sorry, not Synth Head, has an interesting comment. I want to know if you agree with this. In the end, Sheridan is a jarhead, never quite left him. What do you think?
I mean, he is an officer, that's for sure. He's good at what he does. You know, he's a very good tactician. He's very good at military strategy. But that's the thing, is like military strategists, military tacticians, like, you know, General, you know, Blood and Guts Franklin, right?
Right.
He commands soldiers and uses them as tools and weapons of war.
Yeah. Here's where I think Sheridan falls short, and why everything kind of falls into place the way it does is he is a very good, experienced commander. He thought he was going to have his whole career in Earth Force, but he ultimately takes a role as president of the Interstellar Alliance, and it is a brand new role for him. Sort of like in the same way when he comes aboard Babylon 5, he's got to learn how to govern a station, not a starship. They're different. He has a completely different thing he's got to learn now, and he's learning as he goes. He's not getting it right all of the time.
Yep. But at the same time, you know, you can also lay a lot of that responsibility on all of his advisors, you know, in the Interstellar Alliance. I mean, you still have Delenn, you still have Jakar, you know, you still have the League of Non-Aligned Worlds. They all could have helped facilitate something somewhere.
It's true. And why isn't there a little more dialogue? Why aren't they having meetings discussing this sort of a thing? You think there would be. Yeah,
I'm just saying that if I have all of these telepaths and I know what they're capable of, I would want to give them a planet and monitor them. Right?
You would want to know what they're up to. Absolutely.
Yeah. Or have them
because they are
dangerous.
Again. Yeah. They have the potential, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we are quickly running up on an hour. So what is your number 2? Let's lightning around this.
My number 2 is TKO.
Is it really?
It is really.
Okay.
It is really. For the sheer fact that I think that there are 2 great separate stories that don't work great together.
Yep. I think we got to agree on that.
Yeah.
All right. And my number 1 is Infection. And I think I already explained why that is. I mean, sorry, not my favorite. Doesn't really add a whole lot. Not the greatest story. Really, at the end of the day, if I'm thinking about this episode, I'm not thinking that much of it. It's just kind of, if I may steal a lyric, thank you, next.
Thank you, next. All right. I get you.
Anyway, what's your number 1?
This is something that's like, it hasn't hit anyone's list. And I don't know why, because I think it's a fairly, not forgettable, but I have problems with it. Okay. Eyes.
Oh, okay. Go.
So this is my issue with Eyes. My issue with Eyes is that, so my caveats for choosing my list is that if there's a guest star or a secondary character that takes me out of the episode, I automatically flag that as an episode that I don't like. And in this case, it's Ari Ben Zion, because Colonel Ari Ben Zion is a cartoon character.
Yeah, this guy sucks.
He sucks all over the place. Like he is, like I don't know. Okay, so the actor's name is I think his name is Gregory Mayton or Martin. I may have mistyped that. And he may be great in other things too. But as a character who supposedly was on like the short list to be the governor of Babylon, the military governor of Babylon 5, this guy is a nutball.
Just barf. No.
Right?
Can't see it.
And he just overacts, he oversteps. He's about as subtle, as like as a sledgehammer, right? And the thing is that if they cast somebody better, because he's supposed to be like basically like military intelligence, right?
Yeah.
No, he's EIA, Earth Alliance, Earth Intelligence. And it's just that he's just so ridiculous about everything. It's like, how dare you? Rah, rah, rah. I'm like, come on, man. You're like literally like, you might as well just be doing the mustache twirl.
Twirl it a little harder. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. So, but
make a good case.
I would straight out hate this episode if it weren't for the fact that Jeffrey Combs as a Psychor telepath as Harriman Gray was awesome.
Yeah,
so.
It's pretty good. Do like that. Yeah, I thought about this episode. I did. Ultimately, other stuff won out ahead of it, but I considered it.
Yeah.
Same reasons as you have. Just really don't like that guy.
He's just a goofball. Like, come on, man. You're supposed to take you seriously. However, I will caveat another thing. I think it's the first time where they actually saw like the Army Green Earth Alliance uniform.
Is it?
Yeah.
It might be.
Yeah, because we're like, wait a second. Like, we always thought that they were all in blue, but all of a sudden you had like, Captain, you had Commander Sinclair, but you had, Colonel Ari Benzine. So I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And then we got to see that again in Babylon 4, with the commander there. So
that's right.
So that's why is on my list and my number one, because he's just ridiculous, like in every sense of the word.
Good pick. I agree.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Oh, shoot. You know what? We didn't even get to Earl's list. I'm so sorry.
Real quick.
Okay. I'm going to read this and forego any commentary. Okay. We have The Long Dark. He says, frozen bodies in a drifting spacecraft have been done to death. Doctor Who's Ark in Space, Blake 7, Time Squad, blah, blah, blah. Franklin's behavior toward his patient is not just questionable, bordering on unethical. It seems wildly out of character for Franklin. That is my big problem with that episode. And so much for not having commentary.
What's
the only saving grace is the war veteran / Dwight Schultz B plot. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Next one is A Spider in the Web. Earl says, I don't really despise it. It just doesn't fit in with much of anything that comes after it. I'm looking at you, Bureau 13. And while I respect B5's sometimes unusual casting choices, neither Michael Beck nor Adrian Barbeau, thank you, were at the top of their game here. Sorry, Xanadu fans. The plucky newcomer Jeff Conaway was the best guest star in The Thing. Next one is A Day in the Strife. There's a lot I actually like about this episode, but maybe the Berserker probe should have been a season 1 episode. Good point.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. The only bits that really belong in season 3 are the Jakar plot, the Franklin / Stims plot, and sending Veer off to Minbar. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, Gray 17 is missing. Perhaps another victim of Day in the Strife syndrome. Again, it's not an irredeemably terrible episode. It's just a jarring sudden stop of all the buildup that was going on around it. It's like a season 1 episode that got lost in Joe's files somewhere, and he decided to drop it in toward the end of season 3.
Yeah.
And then caps it off with Legend of the Rangers.
That's not part of this, Earl.
It's Earl's list. He can do what he wants. If he wants to put the whole of Babylon 5 on, let him. That's what I got to say. Now, we followed our rules. He's got his. That's fine. So here's what he's got to say. Maybe it's not an episode per se, but everything about this seemed so off. We now officially have one too many ancient enemies lurking out there, in caps, and sweet candy-coated Jesus, but you could make a drinking game out of the utterances of, we live for the one, we die for the one. Babylon 5 could have come back, and perhaps could have picked up / completed the Crusade plotline, and with sci-fi on board, it never would have had a more receptive home, and this movie blew it. I do not disagree with you one bit, Earl.
I disagree a little bit, but I don't think we have time for it.
No, we'll have to revisit Legend of the Rangers sometime, just because there is a lot of potential in there, but there's a lot of missteps, and I think there's ultimately a reason why it wasn't picked up.
Yeah, but that could be said about, say, like, The Gathering having so many missteps, and what happened after that.
Absolutely, it's true.
Right?
It's true. So that is Earl's list. And if you want to join the Discord, here's an invite link. If you're not on there already, share your thoughts, share your lists. We have all sorts of stuff on there. If you have cats, we want to see photos. We've got all sorts of stuff going on there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, maybe we should do a thing on Legends of the Rangers and revisit it. Obviously,
maybe.
there's a lot of feedback in response to that. See where Sith says the VR weapon system was an epic fail. I think it was freaking brilliant. You know why? Because we never saw it before. Like,
it's innovative, but is it really practical? I would disagree that it is.
But what's practical?
Well, using your whole body in a firefight is not practical.
It is if you're a martial artist. You channel all of that energy and movement. Remember, because like that's the way the Minbari are. They channel a lot of their body and soul into their technology. So it's a fusion.
That's true. So you could make that argument. I don't know. Maybe it's that coupled with it's got to be the angry female type running that aspect of the ship, and it's just like, really,
right?
You
it would have
been
do
this.
Yeah, maybe like it would have been more optimal. Like say if you had like a more of like a Zen fighter, male or female, doesn't matter, or alien, like more of a Zen fighter, like a Minbari.
Now that would be interesting just to see channeling that energy. If there was a way to portray that, that might have been a lot more effective.
But we never got to that point. But I see like it was just kind of like just jump in there. Woo, they like kind of like fall into that pit and just like, okay, let's fight.
Yeah.
I was like,
round one, fight.
Yeah, I was like, come on, man, that was awesome.
All right, well, let's close out the show, shall we? So next Sunday, it's Easter Sunday, no show. Maybe we'll record like a little video or something that we'll post on the Discord or something fun. Pre
and post burrito, and me probably taking a nap on Char's couch.
We'll measure our bellies for you, show you what happened.
I get to see the cats.
Yeah, you get to meet the cats if they'll let you. We'll say.
True. I don't want to overstep.
Cats are antisocial, but
I don't want to overstep.
The gawks.
Yeah, the gawks.
Yes. Yes, but that should be a lot of fun. And then we'll come back the following Sunday with a brand new topic. We'll announce what it is when we decide what it is, because we have some really great ideas in store. Let's think about it. We've got some other ideas that we've had percolating too, and I don't know. Maybe we talk about it next Sunday over burritos.
Perhaps. Okay, so this here is this is my temporary abode. Much better than what Lita got, and for half the price.
Indeed.
So I will be leaving here in 2 weeks, and I will be going back to the bunnies. Terry Lynn, they're doing great. They just they missed their papa, and I miss them too.
Yeah, I know you're ready.
So I'll be there in about 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So the next time we do a show, you're going to be in Florida.
I will be in hot, humid, sweaty Florida. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. Because there's nothing better. There's nothing better than to have like a bunch of animals running around the house and you coming out of the, from the humidity and having all their fur stick to you. I mean, come on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You're going to be a swamp rat.
Stinky. Is that what we're going to call ourselves now? Swamp rat and Stinky?
Oh, is that happening now?
No, it's never going to happen.
Okay, never. Fair enough. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you joining us. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so remember, if you like what you've seen, then you can like the button below and do the algorithm check so that we can do the thing to hit the thing and subscribe the thing and hit the button and hit the bell and all that kind of stuff.
And then the algorithm will do the thing. You'll know when we go live, all of that.
That's right. So thanks everyone for joining us, obviously for your support, obviously for being here and sharing your time with us on this beautiful Sunday afternoon, at least here in Southern California. But until next time, we'll send pictures of everything that we're eating on Discord.
Just to make you jealous.
Exactly. And the fact that we're going to be together for the first time for a while. So
yes.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
All right, everyone. So thanks again. And, make sure that you stay in touch. Be seeing you.
Take care, everybody.